First off, everybody, thanks for coming. Was fun to put together. And what I want to do is take you through my experiences of getting a podcast together. It's something I started maybe a year ago, just as an experiment for starters. But anyway, let's dive in. So this is called How to Get Started in Podcasting, the why, what, and how to do your first podcast. And first question is, who am I? Right? That's how you always start off these speeches. I wrote a book called From Grief to Grace. It won the International Transformational Author Writing Contest. A TEDx speech came out of that, and actually one of the locals there, Barry Friedman, helped me with that speech, and he was immensely helpful. I do online media consulting, and I'm a podcaster. My podcast is called What Really Matters Interviews. And here's what it looks like on my website. I interview mostly authors, adventurers, artists, and others. And like the title says, what really matters, that's the purpose of my podcast. I really like to delve in and find out these people that have had extraordinary lives, what have they learned from it? What really stands out? So that's the point of my podcast. But we'll be diving into things that you should do as far as nichifying and stuff like that, because I did make a lot of mistakes along the way. So the first big question in podcasting that you really want to ask is why? Why do you want to do a podcast? Because that becomes your North Star, and it really guides everything that you do. So let's dig into some different reasons why you might want to do one. First off, is it a hobby or is it a business? And a lot of people do podcasts just because they have an interest in something, and it's not related to their business at all. If you're one of those, then that's great. If you want to use it for business, then why? Is it for marketing? Is it to reach your market in another content form? It's really, I can't stress enough how important it is to do this work on the front end, because it will save you, like any project, right? The more work you put in on the front end, the less going back and redoing things you'll hopefully have to, you're less likely to do. Let's talk about the benefits of podcasts for listeners. They can listen to them anywhere. It's in-depth content, and it's long-form content, and they have time to listen to it. And in this ADHD world we have now, where people, there's the battle for the headlines and battle for eyeballs. Podcasts are like, it's really one of the few media out there that sort of steps to the side and goes, we don't care about that. We're about depth. And for example, my favorite podcast, the Tim Ferriss podcast, is typically an hour and 15, 30 minutes long. I just heard some background noise. Christy, there you go. And I live in Mount Shasta, and I often go up to Medford and Ashland in Oregon to do my Costco, TJ's, REI run. And it's an hour and a half. I'll be on the road for 4 or 5 hours on that day. So I can listen to 2 or 3 of his podcasts in that time. And this is really cool, because there's very few places where you can do long form content anymore. And if for business, this can be really a good thing. Benefits of podcast for you. It's an intimate connection, right? They hear your voice. You can do the long form content. People can listen to them anywhere, which is, their benefit is your benefit. And then it's a new marketing channel for you. It's yet another way to reach. So it can affect your bottom line. So questions to ask: what are your expectations from this podcast? Why do you want to do it? Do you want to highlight your skills, talk about your expertise, reach an audience more deeply? I will say this: monetizing a podcast is not easy unless you've already got a list. It's just, there's a lot of them out there now. So it's going to be more indirectly helping your business, most likely. For me, I use it as a way to showcase my interviewing skills. Reaching out. I work with the people that I interview, help me spread the word on my podcast. And I just like doing it. I really like interviewing people, especially, and I've got a wide range of connections with authors, artists, and adventurers. So I've got a good pool of talent to draw from. It comes from spending a lot of years on the planet. I'm not a young guy anymore. And I lived in a ski town where I met a lot of adventurers. So next question is, what type of podcast do you want to make? You can do a solo podcast where it's just you talking about your topic, or there are podcasts where people read their book. So basically they're doing an audiobook on a podcast. There's specialties like gaming, movies, music, Star Wars, Star Trek. Pretty much every niche you can imagine probably has a podcast for it. You can do podcasts with others. There's a lot of co-hosted podcasts, and you can do these either together in a studio, or more conveniently, you can do it with another remotely. And if you have a connection with somebody that you work well with, this can be a really good way to go. I like interviewing others, and I like interviewing people remote. So I've locked in on the remote interviews, and that's probably where I'll stay. The next one, who's your audience? Who are you making this thing for? Just like a business, right, or writing a book, who's your target audience? There's a thing called an avatar, and there's that saying, the riches are in the niche. And the other one is, the more clearly you can state what you do and who you do it for, the more people will seek you out. The more specifically you can say what your podcast is about and who it's for, the more they will seek it out. And I got to say, that's probably been the biggest mistake I've made. If I just picked authors, or I just picked nonfiction authors who write memoirs or something like that, I'm sure I could build my podcast out a lot faster. But I really like interviewing adventurers, authors, artists. And someday I'm going to get over this, but I haven't so far. But I'm working on it. Next question. What do you need to do a podcast? This is the second section. What stuff do you need? And there's a lot of moving parts to doing a podcast. You've got equipment, you've got software, you've got the format, you've got all these different things going on. So I'd like to walk you through some of those. First and foremost, what's the name of your podcast? You got to make it short and simple and make it appeal to your audience. You can do some Google SEO, like what words are people searching on. Once you think you've got a name, make sure you're okay with it, because you don't want to name a podcast the same thing that somebody else has already done. You'll end up having to change it, and that's just no fun. And also, see if you can get the domain name. That can be really good marketing for you. So I wanted to call mine whatreallymatters.com, but that was already taken. So it's like, all right, it's the interview. So I call it whatreallymattersinterviews.com, and I was able to get that. You should go through that same process on yours. And, if there's buzzwords in your niche, or just whatever the icons are that people relate to, look at all of that. You need to create podcast artwork, and it's just like an old album cover. It needs to be square. You need to actually make it pretty large. 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels is sort of the standard size now. Remember, though, it's going to be reduced to a thumbnail, so it needs to stand out and be simple. Like, you've seen podcasts on the phones, right? How when you're searching, like, which one do I want to look at? And they're all tiny. And so they use big headlines, simple icons, strong graphics to pull you in. Canva is a great way to create them. I believe I created mine on Canva. I also use PowerPoint a lot. And if you want to have somebody else make it, there's Fiverr, 99 Designs, and all of that. But you definitely want to, do the artwork thing on the front end. For getting ideas, you can Google podcast covers, and all kinds of covers will show up. You can also go to Instagram and do a search on podcasts, and a lot of different options will come up. So get lots of ideas. Here's just a small example of what's out there. And find something that you like the style of, and then riff off of that. What equipment do you need? And this is a big one. It can get as expensive as you want to make it or pretty cheap. You can do a podcast on your phone, truly, but I wouldn't recommend it. But there's actually a service called Anchor, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, where you can actually do your first podcast on a phone, record it right up to the web, and it takes care of everything. The way I've gone is I have an external microphone on a PC, and I like this external microphone route. You can do this with iPads, PCs, Macs, and we'll look at a number of microphones that are good. You can get a nice one for under $100 that will serve you quite well. Like that one that you actually see in the picture there is the Samsung Q2U, and you can use that as either a USB microphone or an XLR microphone. So you could plug it into like a digital recorder. If you want to go all out on a podcast, you can certainly do that. You can get a mixing board so you can kind of boost the bass or, tweak somebody's voice so it sounds really good. You can get soundproofing around your room, which definitely helps, especially if you have hardwood floors and windows near you. A digital recorder, especially if you're recording on location, can be great, or if you're recording on your own. Makes a world of difference instead of using your computer. So there's good, better, and best, or basic, better, and best. And I would say just focus on the better area. You can get set up reasonably well for a couple $100 there. Here's my setup. I'm staring at this same thing right now as I'm talking to you. And when I'm doing a podcast, so let me show you the moving pieces here. I'm recording remotely. So on that big monitor up top, that's where I can see my guest. And that's kind of where we're communicating. On the left lower screen, I will have my notes, like from a Google Doc. And typically on the right side, I'll have their website up so I can scan information about them, or if there's something that comes up in our conversation, hey, let's check this. I can go to their website really quickly. I have my camera sitting between the upper monitor and the lower left monitor. So I'm kind of looking at them even as I'm looking at my notes and things. And then you see that microphone on the right. It's sort of blocking that lower right monitor. That's on a boom. But I want that microphone right next to my mouth so I can get the best audio quality I can. And the boom is nice because it isolates the microphone from the desktop. So there's no rumbling, or if I'm typing, that doesn't go through it. And so I like the boom a lot. You don't have to get one, but they're $30. If you can attach it to your desk, it can make a world of difference. What software do you need? So for remote interviewing, which I do, Zoom works. Audio quality is not necessarily the best, especially if somebody doesn't have a good internet connection, because you're dependent upon the quality of the connections. You know how you've heard voices sort of twang in and out if somebody kind of has a low bandwidth connection. It just sounds kind of tinny. I like Squadcast because what it does is it records each side of the interview locally. So let's say I was interviewing Rachel right now, my audio would be saved on my computer and her audio would be saved on her computer. And then once we're done, it loads each of those files up to Squadcast, where I can then download them and put them into my audio editing program. And it's really clean. Even if she's got, a really poor connection, like you can get out on, say, the end of Cement Road, where you're like AT&T dial up, you can still have great audio quality. And I, again, cannot overemphasize how important it is to have good audio quality, because people are going to be listening to this thing, with their earbuds right in their ear, and they'll hear everything that sounds good or doesn't. So Squadcast, there's another one called Zencaster. I like Squadcast, though. That's the one I recommend the most. In-person recording and interviews, there's built-in software on iPhones, iPads, Androids. On the PCs, I really like Audacity, which is free. There's some software specifically designed for podcasters and journalists called Hindenburg, which is really nice, but kind of pricey. There's Adobe Audition if you're on a Mac. I'm not a Mac person, but I believe GarageBand enables you to record directly into it. And then if you want to bypass the computers, you can use a digital recorder. You couldn't do that over the web, but if you were in person, that's a really good way to go. And I'll show you a few of those if we have time. I got one here right next to me. What editing software do you need? So once you've recorded it and you've got these audio tracks, then you've got to edit it, right? Tweak the sound, normalize it, do all these things to it to make it sound better. The best free program is Audacity. Tons of tutorials on YouTube. It's not freeware. What do they call that? It's open license. It's just shareware. There's a name for that. And it can do everything. It has filters, and again, there are so many tutorials. You just cannot go wrong. GarageBand on the Mac, I believe, can enable you to do all of that too in the Mac style, if you like Macs. I really like Hindenburg, and in fact, that graphic you see on the left is looking at the Hindenburg window. It normalizes automatically. It's got some really simple buttons for noise reduction. It's really made as a high-end editor for people that don't know how to edit, people that aren't sound engineers. Adobe Audition is really good. Another free option, believe it or not, is actually a video editor called DaVinci Resolve. I also do a lot of video editing, and DaVinci Resolve has built within it a really incredible audio editing program called Fairlight. And I've been using it more and more to do tweaks on some of my, especially equalizing on some of my tracks. It amazes me. So check it out. If it's a more complicated, it has a big learning curve coming into it, but my gosh, it's a great program for both audio and video editing. And there's lots of other programs out there too. So next, there's audio editing and the transcript. So I want to talk about the script. It's really nice if you can generate transcripts of your podcast. It's just, some people like to read, like I just did one recently, and a woman couldn't, she's deaf, so she couldn't listen to it. And she wrote, "Thank you so much for transcribing this." It was a guy I interviewed who is a big hiker. He hiked the PCT back in 1974, and now he teaches people how to get ready for all the winter conditions, everything that happens on the PCT. Anyway, she couldn't hear it, but she could watch it. So here's what happens with the script. I upload my finished audio, or not even my finished audio, but each audio track up to the script. It then transcribes it. And as I go through the transcription, like, how somebody will say, or ah, or the, before they finish it out? This will all show up in the transcript. And when you edit the transcript, it edits the audio. So if I'm looking at the transcript and I delete 2 of the 3 thes, somebody says the, it will remove the from the audio. And it can even automatically take out ums and ahs, and it normalizes the audio. I'm using it more and more, and I'm just amazed at how good it works. And if you were to create a video of your audio, you can also create what's called an SRT file from this, and it will be a perfect transcription that then, if you put it up as a video, it will match the timing of the video. It's just, I'm amazed at what this thing does. And you can also create audiograms and some other things. I'm just getting into it, but really keep an eye on Descript. It's a fantastic program. All right, next. where do you host your audio files? With a podcast, basically you're going to upload your audio file to a central server, and then that company that it's called a audio hosting, I guess you could call it audio hosting, sure, and podcast hosting. We'll call it podcast hosters. And it then tells all the other, all the places that you've got a new podcast going. There are many out there. Anchor is free. I said I'd come back to this. This is the easiest way to make a podcast ever. And it really is. You just get on your phone, you turn it off. It puts on the intro, the outro, creates the podcast cover artwork if you want it to. And then it tells everybody, hey, there's a podcast here called such and such. You lose a lot of control over it. There's nothing that's free is totally free. The next one that I went to is called Libsyn, and they've been around forever. They're sort of like the Microsoft of that area, sort of the 800-pound gorilla. But they've kind of fallen, I think they got lazy on their laurels. Their user interface is pretty archaic. It's kind of clunky. So in my search for a new one, I did a lot of research, and I came across Buzzsprout, and I really like them. It has great reviews. They have a really good Facebook group for support. They have a nice interface, very simple, and I can walk you through that when we finish the main presentation if you want. There are many others, but I would recommend, just out of the bat, for most people's uses, I would recommend Buzzsprout. And they've got great tutorials on how to put everything together and how to do your podcast. All right, part 3. Just do it. Make the leap. You got all the gear. You've got your ideas together. You know what you want to speak about. You're going to be nervous. You're going to hear your voice for the first time on audio and go, oh my God, is that what I sound like? I'll take you through the steps that I do. The first part is just getting ready, and it's gathering my notes and links, relevant websites. The next thing is the mic check and the software, hardware check. Check your sound levels. Make sure you're choosing the right microphone. I actually made the mistake once I had this fancy microphone that's in front of me. I'm going to be talking into that, I'm thinking, and the software actually selected my the microphone on my webcam, and it sounded like crap. And I'm like, what the heck happened? So I did as much tweaking on the audio file as I could in DaVinci Resolve, but probably what I'm going to do is reread my piece of the track into the good microphone and then just swap out the good audio with the not so good audio. So you really want to, you'll make all these mistakes once or twice, and then you'll get it because you'll have to go through all the work that it takes to correct for it. I'm never going to do that again. Make sure your software and recorder are ready, and make sure you know where the record button is and hit it when you start. Nothing is worse than doing a full interview and finding out you forgot to hit record. But we'll come to that in the next slide. The other thing is to just relax your guest. I like to talk with my guests for, a few minutes beforehand, check their audio. In fact, if I can, sometimes what I'll do is I'll connect with them a day or two before to make sure they've got good audio, because a lot of times people think they have good audio, but they really should get a USB headset as a minimum to have good audio quality on your podcast. Can't say that enough. All right, record your podcast. Click record. Watch the red light blink. Watch the timer go to make sure that it's recording so you don't not record. Can't emphasize this enough. I like to leave at least 8 to 10 seconds of silence at the beginning, even 10 to 15. And the reason for this is for noise reduction. In a program like Audacity, you can train it to sort of works like an those noise reducing things like in headphones, the Bose and stuff. What you can do is have the recorder or the software sample that background noise. And it says, I don't want this noise in the background. And if it can get a 10 to 15 second sample of it, it really has enough to know I get it. This is what you don't want. Whereas if you just start right off, talking right off the bat, and you've got a noisy fan in the background on your computer or the air conditioner or the heater or whatever, it makes it a lot more difficult for it to figure out what you're trying to get rid of if it can't sample it for at least 8 to 10 seconds. If you flub during a recording, and assuming we're not talking like a live Facebook podcast, which I guess you could do, don't turn off the recorder. Just keep recording and do about 10 to 15 seconds of silence. Go, hey, oh man, how about we start that over again? Okay, that little section. So let's do 10 seconds of silence and then we'll start again. Okay, and then great. So you go silent and then you start again. And what that does is put a big gap of no sound waves on your audio file so you can immediately find it. And then you can come right to that. You can get rid of the part before it that they flubbed up, and then you can just butt the new part up, where it starts up again, and boom, you're good to go. And then if you're online recording, like with Squadcast, make sure that when you finish the recording that the other person doesn't just leave. Because if they do, their audio file will not have time to load up. And that happened to me on one. It's like, oh, shit. And fortunately, Squadcast actually has sort of a built-in plan B if that's what happens. But it really scared me because it's my highest profile interview yet. It was a woman who did What the Bleep Do We Know? She both produced the film and wrote the book. And I was like, oh, man, did I blow that? But fortunately, the plan B worked. Okay, then you edit your podcast. I have a file folder system I like to use for all the audio files. The basic things you're going to do is noise reduction in the background, normalize the video, which means there's loud parts and soft parts, and it just basically brings them closer together so that the volume's not going up and down and all over the place. You want to tighten it up. If those sections where people flubbed, you obviously want to bring those together. You want to add your intro and outro, which is that little jingle at the beginning. I have I think an 8-second music clip that I let go for 5 seconds, and then I start talking over it as the sound fades. Say, this is Doug Green with What Really Matters Interviews, and today I'm interviewing do. And then at the end, as I'm closing off, I'll have the music come back up and go for maybe 15 seconds and then go down. You do all that in the audio editor. And then once you're done, you just render it. And rendering means that you just create the file that you're going to upload to the podcast hoster. Here's how I like to organize my files. I will create a directory for each podcast I do. It in itself is in a podcast directory called Podcas. And I use this dating system. I'll use the year, then the month, then the date, and then I'll go with ABC. And this automatically lines, if I sort by name, it will automatically put them in chronological order. And then I'll have the name of the person, and then I'll have 2 main subdirectories within the person's name, media and renders. And then in the so the renders all go into renders, pretty obvious. And then in media, I'll have images. Typically, I'll have images, docs, and audio and video. If I'm doing a video. But I even refine it more. So I've got my Hindi exports for Dissolve, Squadcast raw recordings. I'll store everything parsed out like that. And then when I save the file, the main program file, I'll save it in this case, the Ned Tibbetts directory. And then if I ever want to move this, and here's why you want to do this. You've got all these different files that the audio recorder needs to render it. And if you, say, fill up a directory, like I've got a SD card in my computer that I think it's got, I don't know, it's got a lot of space, but as it fills up, what I can do is I can just drag and drop these whole podcasts over, and it takes the media files with it. It takes the program file with it, and everything else is all in one place, and it still knows where the files are. If you've got audio files in one directory and image files in another, and you move it off, it doesn't know where they are, and you have to reconnect everything. So I cannot emphasize enough how much easier your life will be if you keep everything in one place. So next you prepare it hosting. You add the artwork for the issue. You add text about the podcast. What was it about? What's the name of it? You upload any relevant links. Like in my case, BetsyChastity.com is the producer, author. I've interviewed for Ned Tibbetts. This particular one you see, it was his Facebook page and a couple of Facebook groups relevant to what we talked about. And then once you got everything uploaded, you publish your podcast. And that's where Buzzsprout comes in, and it sends it out. It says, okay, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Google Podcasts and everywhere else. Doug Green's podcast, What Really Matters Interviews.com, has a new episode, and click here to play it. And you're done. That's what it takes. So that's it. We can do Q&A now. I hope that gave you a good overview of podcasting, though. And we can bring the, I guess we can all unmute, or people that want to have questions can unmute.
Yeah, definitely. And can I end your screen share? Do you end the screen share?
Well, I actually was wondering if people wanted to see what it looks like inside of Buzzsprout and some of these other ones. I can certainly do that.
Sure. Does anybody have a preference for what they would like to have a tour on? I think it'd be cool to see Buzzsprout personally if you would like to show us.
Okay. Actually, I think I have a bunch of links here open that I can take you through, so you can kind of see some of the different things going on. First off, can you see the website now? WhatReallyMattersInterviews.com?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where I put my podcasts. This is a WordPress website. If you go to WhatReallyMattersInterviews.com, it will, I'm hearing some feedback from somebody. Mute unless you got a question, I guess. So I use WordPress, and there's a plugin called, I want to say Burberry, something like that, PowerPress. And you can see these little buttons. If I click on this, it'll take you through to the Ned Tibbetts interview. And this PowerPress creates, I tell it where the file is, and then it creates this player. So then as you scroll through here, and I've got my cover artwork. A system I use is I like to create the cover artwork in, this is 3000 by 3000. Then I'll pull it into Photoshop, and I'll just grab an image of whoever I'm interviewing, and then I'll just use the cover artwork combined with a picture of them. And then I've got my WordPress image ready to go. And then the players here, they can subscribe by clicking on this, and they can choose however they want to listen to it. I think I've got here's the links that I've got. So this is how I do it on my website. And I just include it within my bigger website, so I don't have to maintain too many websites. Some people might, you can see some of the people I've interviewed here. Same system, person on the right, content on the left. Here's Buzzsprout. So here's inside of Buzzsprout. And let me show you the Ned Tibbetts one. So here's what it looks like once you've logged into there. You've got your cover artwork, you've got your audio file showing up here, and I could actually Hi, this is Doug Green. So that's my intro. And then I can put a short description in here. I can't include my whole transcript. It doesn't have enough space for that. If I want to edit this, I just click here. And I can make whatever changes I want. I could change the title here. I could change this intro. I could change the artwork. And somewhere in here, yeah, right here, it says I can replace the audio file. So if you make a better file, like clean it up some more, and you want to load up the cleaned up one, which I've done a few times, you can do that. You can save and update, or you can discard changes. I'm just going to go back. But that's what it looks like inside of Buzzsprout. Here is Libsyn. I still have an account with them. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's log in. And I'll just show you how much clunkier the back end is on this thing, unless they've cleaned it up. It's like, oh God, what are we looking at here? So I click on content, I can add new episode, all this stuff. Then I got to find this edit button. And then it's got all this stuff. I just don't like it. I just don't like Libsyn. Here's Anchor FM. This is the one that's free. I think I've still got an account with these guys. Yeah. Let's see. So this is a pretty cool, I really recommend Anchor for people that just want to get started. They walk you through it step by step. And it's a great way to just test it, because there can be a lot of nervousness about like, oh God, a podcast, all this fancy stuff and all these moving pieces. Well, with Anchor, you just talk into your phone and it does 90% of the legwork for you. Once you decide you want to do it, like, oh, okay, this podcasting thing's kind of cool. I think I'd like to give it a shot. That's when you like, go, okay, I think I better go over to Buzzsprout. Here's Audacity. This is the...
So, Doug, I have a question.
Yeah, you bet.
With Anchor, you have to use phone, or can you upload an audio file?
I believe that you can upload an audio file.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll walk you through it step by step. So,
thank you.
Yeah. See if that gets me a different screen. What do we got here? Yeah. Audacity. You can get that at audacityteam.org. And I'm going to put together a PDF I can send out to people. So if you want to send me your email, I can send you all that information. So this is the cross-platform audio editor that's free that really does an amazing amount of stuff. The only thing here's an important thing to know about Audacity versus these paid programs. There's a thing called destructive editing and non-destructive editing. And Audacity is actually what's called a destructive editor. What it does is when you edit the file, it actually literally changes the audio file. And so it will work on your original file. And the problem with that is if you want to bring it back to the way it was, you might have a lot of trouble doing that. A program like Hindenburg, which I use, and I'll show you Hindenburg here. Here's Hindenburg. Yeah, be fun to show you. Actually, maybe I'll fire it up. Hindenburg does what's called... Also, are there any questions while I'm rambling along here? Please feel free to... here is... Okay, here's Hindenburg. See if I can get this to work right. My computer's kind of getting overloaded here. But you can see, here's the intro. Here's Betsy's voice on one track. Here's my voice on another track. So I can work on each of these tracks and tweak them independently. With this, I can create a profile and apply it, which means it says, well, I want this voice to sound like that. So I might modify things on it. Let's see if I can. So here's an equalizer, and I can tweak things on it, increase the bass or treble or whatever I want to her voice. It's pretty simple. Again, this program's designed for people that are not sound engineers, and that's where it excels. And it's pretty fast. It's pretty lightweight to work on a computer that doesn't have a lot of power. So anyway, I really like that program a lot. And then what else did I have in it? Oh, here's Descript. You know what? Go to transcripts.com anyway, just to watch their video promo. It's one of the best videos, promo videos I've ever seen. It's really, really well done. I just really like this company so much. I can't even. Great product, great marketing. Seems like great people. Oh, and here's another thing it does. It can learn your voice, which is actually showing right here. And once it learns it, you can type in words that you want you to say, and it will say it in your voice. You don't have to say the word. So you make a mistake. Say, oh, no, I didn't mean to say, I don't want to go. I meant to say, I want to go when there's a blue wagon out in front. And you just type in, I wanted to say with a blue wagon, and it will say it. It's amazing. You can only do it with your voice, or if you get an expensive version, I guess you can do it with other voices, but you have to get the specific okay of those people. Here's another good resource, Headliner. You can create what's called audiograms out of these, or even create videos from your podcast. It will do the sound wave thing, and just kind of make it look cool, be a little bit more fun to watch than just looking at a static image. And then here is, come on mouse, what's going on? Here's DaVinci Resolve. It's actually a program created by Blackmagic, which makes cameras for cinematography and high-end editing programs for video. But the free program is amazing. If you want to do really good audio editing, as good as Audacity or Hindenburg, and you're willing to put in the time to learn Resolve, just the Fairlight audio editing part of Resolve is just amazing. And again, lots of good videos out there on how to use it. So, and if you're doing video, it's a kind of a no-brainer. If you're willing to put in the time to learn. I hear somebody have a question. What else can we talk about here? Let me know what you're interested in.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how long it usually takes you to put together, from prep all the way through to render, to actually put together one episode.
Ooh.
I mean, just as an idea.
Yeah. So my podcasts typically are, I'm hearing some feedback loop going on. My podcasts are typically an hour and 15 to hour and 30 minutes. So they're pretty long. I would say I probably do, I contact somebody, we go back and forth. Yeah, okay, let's do it. That's probably a half an hour of just communication, but it's intermittent. Once it's like, okay, we're doing a podcast. If I don't know that much about them, I'll probably put in an hour and a half or 2 hours of research anyway, just to know who they are, what they've done, find some good photos of them, all that sort of thing. Typically, they're people I know at least a little bit, so I've got some sort of knowledge on them. The podcast itself will take about 2 hours, just setting up, recording, being done, and just talking with them a little bit before and afterwards. Audio editing can take a while. It depends on, some people ramble on and say, and I've spent up to 5 or 6 hours, 7 hours even, editing some of those audios. And I'm hoping that this script's going to be able to help me cut down on that amount of time. Or you just say, you know what? I don't care what they sound like. I don't want to put in that much time to clean it up. So you just get rid of the big stuff, like the gaps where there's the total flub. Say, all right, let's do that section over. So that can go anywhere from 2 hours to depending on how perfect you want to make it, 6-8 hours on an hour and a half audio. The transcription, if you want to do a transcription, would take another, because you have to go through and clean that up. I'm hoping that I can sort of combine that with the audio editing at the same time. So that might just get pulled in together, but that can take a few hours to get a long transcript done right. And then uploading it, putting it on the website, creating the artwork can be another few hours. So it wouldn't be surprising if I've got 15 to 20 hours in some of these episodes. There are certainly ways to cut that down. Just keep it simple. Don't worry about the website piece. Don't worry about the transcript. Just be pretty happy with the audio as it is. Throw on an intro and an outro and, have a simple graphic where you just change out the title on each one. And you could probably cut down a 30-minute podcast to maybe an hour and a half of follow-up time. So, but because I'm using some of these as portfolio pieces, I want them to really look good. And I also use it as a way to test my systems. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thanks.
Sure. Other questions? Who's? Yeah.
I have a question. When you use Podcas, how do you synchronize the two tracks that you get from two different computers?
It does. Basically, they're the exact same length, so you just line them up. But here's a trick you can do. Just clap. And you'll get 3 spikes at the beginning of the audio, and then you just line up those 3 spikes. And that'll do it too. But typically the audios are the exact same length, and you just line them up, bump them up against the same marker on your audio editing program, and you're good to go. But that 3 spike system really works well. We used to do that in video a lot because you want to sync up the voice with the video, right? And you don't want it to look like one of those foreign films where somebody lips move, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden you hear a bunch of sound when they're done. You got to get things lined up. So that 3 spike system works really well. Then you would have 3 spikes on each audio track, and you just line them up together, and boom, you'd be good to go.
I'm a little confused about the 3 spikes because I thought the audio recording is only for the local microphones.
Oh, so
when you do this.
Yeah, so when I clap, that's a good point, actually. Wow. I take that back. Thank you. Forget that. Won't work. It would work on Zoom, maybe. But yeah, never mind. It wouldn't be on their audio track. I'm lost in the cinema world where we did that all the time. So just know that Squadcast makes them the same length. You bump them up together and you're good to go. Thanks for catching me on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Mila.
So I've been editing a few things with video, but when you put the 2 soundtracks together and once they're there, do you have to edit them separately for each or when you edit one, does the other one go out? Well, that would be only one person doing the though, but still timing wise.
Yeah. So first thing I do is I pull the audio tracks in. Let's see if I can bring this back down. Come on. Here we go. I click this. Okay. So I'll line the tracks up, and if I wanted to delete, let's say I can drill in here, you can see. If I wanted to delete this section of audio, this is where somebody said, stuttered, or something, and I wanted to remove this part of this track. Once I've got them lined up, I will want to make sure that I delete them on both tracks. You got to work with both tracks at the same time when you're shortening it up. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. What I typically do is first I just bring a file into, I bring both files into Hindenburg, and the first thing I do is just normalize the sounds and get rid of any noise background. I don't touch the length of them. And then I line them up, and then that's when I start chopping them up. And I want to make sure that I chop them together. And you can do that in Descript. I have not done 2-track editing yet in Descript, but it does it. And it would do exactly what you're talking about. I take out an or an ah in one track. It'll tighten up both tracks at the same time, so they're still synchronized. Does that make sense? Hello. You can unmute.
Makes sense to me. It's very complicated stuff. I didn't think it'd be so complicated. Then we started getting into it, and I was like, it's a whole world, you know?
Well, it depends on how nuts you want to get with this. I would, one route to go is you just record it. And there's actually, let me show you another website that's really cool. It's called Auphonic. Forgot about Auphonic. Okay, where's my mouse? Come on. All right, we go to Auphonic. I'm kind of a techie, so I like this stuff. I know not everybody does. With Auphonic, it actually does most of this heavy lifting for you. Come on, remember me. There we go. I haven't used them in a while because most of the programs I have now do this. But with Auphonic, what you can do is just upload your files, and it takes care of all of it automatically. It actually normalizes, equalizes, cleans up your audio, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to tell it, I want to get rid of this sound in the background here, this humming or whatever. And you can actually do 2 hours per month free on it. So I would highly recommend checking out Auphonic. Run your audios through that first, then just put it into some basic editor, add your intro and your outro, and bingo, you're done. And they may even have a way to add the intros and outros. Let's see what happens here. Intro, outro, yeah. You can even train it. Once you've got your intro and outro done, you could do it all through here. So there's that option. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. I had a question too. What if you wanted to do like kind of a dual kind of podcast thing where like you record it as a video, then you'd also like to distribute it?
As an audio, as a podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not a techie, so if you record as a video, do you just extrapolate? You export just the MP3 portion? Yeah.
So what you can do is, I'm not going to fire up Resolve because it's really a resource-intensive program. But if you use Camtasia, say, or what does Apple have? iMovie or something?
Yeah, QuickTime will export it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can just export it as an MP3 file or a WAV file. So you would have the audio only, and then you're good to go.
Okay.
And there's probably even some of these free shareware programs out there. What is it called? I know I've got one here that can, they're file converters. It'll take one file type and spit out something else. And they're really good. Here's one, VLC Media Player.
Yeah, VLC is great.
So I believe that with VLC, you could upload a video file and then tell it to, you've got convert, save, all these different options. So you could do that too. Yeah, VLC is great. It just does all kinds of stuff. It's like the Swiss Army knife of the file world.
Well, yeah, I like the Auphonic, that because I was thinking like I just have a headset and a cell phone, and I was thinking like, I could just do something really simple.
Do you want to interview people or just want to do your own reading?
I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I've
honest.
For work. I mean, I have like a phone recording thing too. I mean, the audio is not the greatest, but maybe I could just put it through Auphonic and not worry about the quality so much, kind of thing.
I'm going to see, how do I get out of screen sharing? You are screen. Stop share. Here we go. Let's go back to seeing everybody. Hey, everybody.
People.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yeah, I would start with, I really start with Anchor FM. Use your phone, record it up, let it take care of all of that, and you can really, you can test the waters. And then if you want to deep dive into it or dive deeper into it, then you can do that. It's just like anything. You're going to make mistakes, and that's great because you'll learn fast. The faster you make mistakes, the faster you learn it. And I'm still learning stuff. I mean, it was my last podcast where I have this new microphone, right? This fancy schmancy. It's like a $250 system. The mic's $100. The boom's $50, and then I've got this audio interface that takes the big XLR 5-pin cable like you see typically on microphones in a studio or something, converts it into a USB, and it does a really good job with it.
Wow.
Well, I thought I was talking into that. No, I was talking into my Logitech webcam. It's like 2 feet away from me. It's like, man. And of all the people, right, I'm doing it with a film producer who really knows audio. It's like, I'm looking like a fool.
Hey, Doug, I have
Yeah.
a question about the webcam. I took a big workshop yesterday, and the guy did the whole workshop on a webcam, and he said all you need is the webcam for the picture and the mic, and that would be all I need. Can you tell me about that?
Well, yeah, he's right, but actually, okay, I sound pretty good right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to. All right, how do I sound now? Can you tell the difference?
Oh yeah, it's like an echo chamber.
Yeah, so now I'm talking through my Logitech webcam.
Oh.
So that's the difference. And let's see, I think I can also do this with my, yeah. How do I sound now?
Worse.
Even worse?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so it's worth investing in audio. So here we're back to the microphone, right?
Oh yeah, it's like butter.
Yeah, but so something I wanted to show you. I got my little bag of tricks here. This is the Samsung Q2U microphone. These are like $70, $60. And let's see if I can show you. See how it's got two different things on there? It's got a USB output and it's got a XLR output. What's beautiful about these microphones is, besides they're sounding really good for the money, is you can just plug them directly into your computer as a USB mic, or you can plug it into a mixing box using the XLR cable. And in fact, maybe you can do both at the same time, so you'd have a backup recording. I'm not sure about that, but the Samsung Q2U mic is really a great mic for the money. I use this for years, and I still use it from time to time, especially if I'm traveling, because this whole Rode pod mic with the AI1 blah, blah, blah thing is sort of bulky and a pain to move. Here's an audio recorder I like. This is the Tascam. It's got 3 XLR inputs on one side, and it's got one on the other, and it's designed so I can actually slip it underneath a video camera and put the camera on top of it so I can get really clean audio while I'm doing video. This thing's like $300. You don't need anything like this. Computer's plenty good. But if you want to go crazy, you can certainly do that. Yeah. Samsung Q2U. I'll write that. Let's see. My mouse is really Samsung. It's not Samsung. It's Samsung. Q2U microphone. Really good microphone. This particular one I've got on the boom now is, for the money, is really good. It's $99 plus the around 175, 200 for the boom and the box, the audio interface. But this mic for the money is really good. You can go crazy with microphones. There's microphones out there that cost like $1,000 or more. And you can get condenser mics. Oh, here's a big thing about microphones too. You'll see a lot of people using the Blue Yeti. That's a popular mic, USB mic. That's actually what's called a condenser mic. And the problem with condenser microphones is, even though they can sound good, they pick up sound from all over the place. So if you put it on your desk and you got monitors around and you got windows nearby and you got a hardwood floor and all of that stuff, it's going to sound echoey. And the closer you can get the microphone to your mouth, the better the sound quality. That's why lavalier mics are great when you're doing video, right? Because the microphone's pretty close. You can tell so condenser mics are like the Blue Yeti. This is what's known as a dynamic mic. And it only picks up sound from really close by. So if I move it away, you can tell my voice gets softer and softer, right? Can you even hear me at all now? Okay. So, but as I get it closer, it's right here. But the beauty is, I'll start typing on my computer, right? Do you even hear my keyboard? Just a little bit, yeah. And if I had the Blue Yeti out, I guarantee you'd be like, hey, quit typing. I can't hear you, right? Clack, 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 clack. So I'll show you what I wrote. It's brilliant. Oh, no, I sent that to Venkat. Sorry. Send it to everyone. This is me typing, test typing. So the dynamic mics, I really recommend the dynamic mics. This pod mic made by Rode is specifically for podcasting or for voice. It wouldn't be very good with music, but it's really good with a spoken word. This Samsung Q2U dynamic mic, so it doesn't pick up the fan noise of your computer nearly as easily. The echoes in the background will be almost all gone. So get a dynamic mic unless you're really ready to spend a lot of money to soundproof your room and do all that other stuff. That being said, the best mics are typically condenser mics, but they're really, they start for a good one at $400 and go up. You just don't need it for podcasting. I'd call this best. This is plenty good. Samsung, love them. There used to be one called the ATR 2100, Audio Technica 2100, which is also good. I found that it wasn't hot enough. I'd have to crank up my gain all the way, and then I'd start getting hiss in the background, and it just wasn't as rich in the tonal range it picked up. More questions?
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
I like to do I do like little Instagram whatevers. I like to do them outside. I feel like I think better.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a microphone that you would recommend for outside, or is it just like, forget about it? Maybe just a headset or?
I would, no, you could, what kind of phone do you have?
iPhone.
Okay. There's some good lavalier mics made for iPhones.
Oh, yeah. Lavalier. Okay.
Yeah, lavalier. Those are the ones you just clip on to something, right? And they're wired, and you would depending on whether you have a headphone jack in the phone or not, they'll plug in. It does have a headphone jack?
It's a 7, so it has like the little, I have an adapter though that's pretty decent.
Yeah, so you go through the adapter. So they make lavalier mics that will work with iPhones and Android, and they're not that expensive, $20-$30.
Okay.
Get you a good one. And that would work great. They also make little mini shotgun mics and other things, and there's probably ways to hook up other stuff, but I'd just get the lav mic and start there. Probably be plenty good for what you want to do.
Okay. What about, like, I have a really nice boom headset for the phone. Is that like, or is that not good enough?
That'd be plenty good. I actually, so this headset that I've got on, it's the MPOW.
Oh yeah, that's what I have.
Something. It's $32, and it can be used as either a USB mic headset, or I can just plug it into my computer side using a 3.5 millimeter jack. That's a really good alternative. I actually didn't mention, but I like dedicated mics like this. They just sound really good, but the headsets can sound really pretty amazingly good. So
because that's what I got. So
yeah,
cool. Thank you.
I have a question that might kind of relate to that. I mean, what about a more portable kind of setup? Like if you're kind of on the road a lot and you just are going to have like a laptop and an iPad most of the time, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily a home setup.
So what you can do with that is I would still get this microphone. You can get a little stand for it. In fact, I think that you can buy them as like a kit. You know, sometimes they'll throw stuff together and kind of give you the basics.
Which one is that again? Sorry.
This is the Samsung Q2U. Let's see if I can find it on Amazon. And I'll stick the link in there. I do like buying stuff from Amazon just because their return policy is so easy to work with. Here's a kit. Oh, that's Sweetwater. Yeah, here we go. I'll put this in the chat. There you go. So let's see what the price is on this. Come on. Boy, my mouse is really choking. What's going on here? Oh, it looks like it's sold out. They kind of get them in stock and then they sell out. They're so popular. But you can check. I would just do a search on Samsung Q2U. You can probably get them at Adorama, B&H Photo. Sweetwater actually is not a bad place to get stuff. But see that stand? So it all breaks down pretty small. So you can do really good recording quality that way. And the other way to go is to just get a headset. I mean, this actually makes, this MPOW headset actually does a great job of recording. And if you're just starting out, especially, you're not aiming for the stars here. Just get, say, okay, I want to spend $100 and I'll get the best stuff I can get for $100 or even $50. Just do the $100 route. You can get the Samsung Q2U. If you go the $50 route, you can get a headset, even 35 maybe. So that's what I would do. And for travel, I'll take both. I'll take my headset. I actually do a fair bit of house sitting, or I used to before COVID hit. And I would drag some of this stuff around with me. And I would typically just take this headset, plug it into the side, and I'm good to go. More questions? Does that answer your question, Grace? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? Questions on anything related to podcasts or not?
I just want to say this has been super inspirational, and I think like at least for me, like you gave me enough tips that I can make my 30. I was thinking like maybe a 30-minute podcast when I feel like it, like once a month, once every 2 months kind of thing. And you gave me enough to feel like, all right, like I can handle this. And I was like,
Good.
well, like my husband does some sound engineering stuff, but I don't want to bother him, but I could just use the Euphoria, whatever, Soundphoria, Autophoria, whatever it was.
Oh, Auphonic.
Auphonic. I just kind of put it all together. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Is anybody else thinking about trying out doing a podcast? Maybe? Mila?
Anybody?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
thinking
it.
about it.
I'm thinking about it. I did a podcast for 5 years, but I had my tech work was done by my partner who was in Australia, who had all the boards, all the sound. He had it all. All I had to do was produce it, bring in the guests, create the scripts, that side of the house. But it's awfully fun. I did it once a week for 5 years.
Question for you, Catherine. What are you on now? Your audio actually sounds pretty good.
I'm just on my computer. I'm just on the Mac.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
Macs tend to have better hardware than PCs, I've noticed.
Yeah, but I got a lavalier mic, so I do a lot of Zoom classes for Ollie. So I got a professional light and I got a lavalier mic, so that would be clearer. So I've upgraded a few things.
I do hear cars in the background, so it's
Yeah.
picking up some background noise, but
Yeah,
still,
and I got a fan going. Yeah.
it's still quite good for
Thanks.
just
Thanks.
yakking at a screen. Any other questions?
Do you have any experience with subcontractors like a Fiverr helping out?
I don't, but I know they're out there. There are some really good Facebook groups. Let's see. By the way, I put my email address in there. So in the chat, and I'm going to put together a PDF or a web page. It's got links to all of this stuff. So if you want to send me, if you want that, just send me an email, and in the headline or the header, just write podcast info, or I want podcast info, or send me podcast, something that's related to this, and then I'll know, and then I can just send that to you when it's done. And I'll put in again links to everything we've talked about here. Remind me too, I forgot about Auphonic, and Auphonic.
Yeah.
Auphonic is awesome.
Yeah, I'm
It
excited.
really is. And then what else have we just, let's see, headsets. I think I got that covered. There was something else. Lavalier mics for phones. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to add a good resource if you want just a transcript. I really like Otter AI. They give you I think they give you a couple for free, but it's pretty inexpensive. If that's something that you're interested in having, it's pretty. It has pretty good fidelity. It does.
Yeah, I used Otter AI for a while. They're good.
Yeah.
Actually, with Descript, you also can you get a free X amount of time per month too before you need to start paying for it.
Hey, Doug, why do you have the headset on with the mic and then your other mic? What's the difference?
Oh, I'm actually not using this mic. The reason I have a headset on, and I would use the earbuds if I didn't have this, is I don't want speakers in the background because it'll give me that feedback loop. You know, sort of an echo, like if I talk or you talk and then it comes out of my computer and then the microphone picks it up, it'll start doing weird stuff. So I want to have my sound coming into my ears through a headphone or earbuds so that there's no noise contamination coming in from outside.
But could you do the whole interview with just the headset and the mic on the headset?
I could, yeah. It wouldn't sound quite as good, but it would still sound pretty good. The best headsets I found, I actually like this one a lot. The MPAL, because you can actually move the boom around a little bit, right, and position it just right. And then who's the other? Sennheiser makes a good one too, and they're both under $40, $30. And the nice thing about having a headset is I can look left, I can look right, I can move around, and I don't have to worry about remembering to keep my face right in front of the microphone, right? So there's that.
I had another question while we're questioning you.
Sure.
Have you found that doing your podcast has brought more traffic to your website, has helped to boost the sale of your book? Since I'm imagining most of us are writers, that's probably like what we're hoping to do.
So mine is actually used more to promote my media services than my book. If I interview somebody, like my book's about going through a pretty major life challenge, almost going blind and going into a really dark place for a few years and finally coming out of it. And I did a TEDx talk on it too. If I interview somebody that's related to that, then I would use it to push promote the book and the speech. As you know, the ideal thing would be, okay, you're a writer, you've got this niche, especially if it's nonfiction. You could do your podcast to explore that subject more deeply, interview others about it, sort of use it to become the authority, and then you could promote your book within the podcast. Heck, you could even name the podcast after your book, I guess. So really, that's why that North Star is so important. All that, what do you want to accomplish with a podcast? Because it does take time. It truly does. You can, if you were to say stick with 30 minutes, just not worry about too much about the audio quality, just run it through Alphonics, throw your intro and outro on there, which Alphonics can do. And you're going to keep it down to under 2 hours a month. You could use Alphonic for free. You could, and then promote your book with that. What's your book on? Remind me.
Well, mine's still in development, but I'm mostly focusing on YA. YA fantasy for young women. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you could start a podcast about that.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah.
Do it.
You start building your platform now, and then once your book comes out, it's like, well, it is finally out, and you got a bunch of people listening to your podcast. There's your market started right there.
Exactly. Yeah, I think in the short term, the plan would be to boost my my blog and my social, but mainly my blog. Yeah. I feel like I could really share a lot of like good writing tips. That would be fun for me, and yeah. I'm gonna sit with it.
Another approach, which I think I'm going to do, is do a series. So I may just interview like 10 or 15 authors in a row.
Oh yeah.
About different aspects of writing, probably nonfiction authors, memoirists, things like that. And then run that as a 10 to 15 part series. And then for the next series, I might pick adventurers, like I know a lot of people in the world of adventure motorcycling all over the world.
That's awesome.
That could be a good series. And then kayakers, whitewater type people, artists, whatever. So
you should interview those people in Colorado who do the bluegrass on the river thing. Have you ever seen that?
No.
They have whole bands on rafts that are rafting along with their participants.
Well,
And
that'd be
have all their instruments on the rafts, and then they get to camp and they like play bluegrass for them.
I interviewed a woman from Colorado, fascinating woman. She has a husky, and she has some sort of thing that the husky is like what do they call it, a help dog?
Yeah.
And because she's allergic to certain smells.
Huh.
And she's an athlete. And she climbed all of Colorado's 14,000-foot peaks with her dog. There's only been 2 other dogs that have ever done it. She's the first woman to do it. And I don't know if you know huskies. We got a husky where I live. Pain in the ass dog. Jesus. They whine. They're willful. They don't listen to you. And but she's got this incredible dog. She said, I hit the lottery with this one, man. It's like I got the perfect husky, and I didn't even think such a thing existed. In fact, while I was interviewing her, the husky here was whining in the background. We had to stop the interview for a bit till I could get that dog to shut up. so we can finish the interview and not have the whining in the background. And she was just laughing. I mean, it was a perfect person to be doing that interview with, right? And have a husky in the background whining away. So, but anyway, yeah, you can interview people about
Anything.
God, anything. Yeah. But as a writer, again, focusing on whatever your expertise is, if everything is focused around the same thing, the same North Star,
Right.
then it really works together. If you're doing something like, for me, that's why I wish could just pick a niche and stop being so interested in everything. It would really
help your brand.
Yeah, it would just.
But would you be a happier person? That's really
Depends on how much money I had in the bank, how effective it was. But realistically, I really like doing what I'm doing, and I'm fortunate to have this, wide range of friends that are pretty interesting. So,
yeah.
In fact, one of the guy I want to interview coming up, he was the first. His name is Eric Wiedemeyer, and unbelievable. He climbed Everest, and he's blind.
Whoa, sweet.
Blind.
He climbed Everest, yeah.
So that was part one. Part two was he kayaked the Grand Canyon blind. I've been to Everest Base Camp and I've kayaked down the Grand Canyon, and I've done a lot of snow and ice climbing. I'll tell you what, I think kayaking down the Grand Canyon blind is a bigger deal than climbing Everest blind. It's surreal. There's huge hydraulics and you've got to see what's going on. He can't see.
How did you do it?
Well, he had somebody working with him, with a headset, and he's getting the directions, and he just practiced and practiced and practiced and, got beat up pretty bad, but he did it. I mean, it's mind-boggling. You get turned upside down, you're disoriented, you're getting hammered on rocks, and, you don't know if you're 20 feet under or near the surface. And, if you're blind, you don't know when exactly to cut left, cut right, make this paddle stroke, eddy out, what the water, it's mind-boggling. At least on snow and ice, it's steady, right? Okay, I can figure out what's going on one step in front of me and then another step, and we're going to be climbing ice. Okay, got it.
The water's fast, yeah.
Oh, it's so amazing. So I think he'd be a great interview. And I know that a friend of mine actually co-wrote his book with him, so I've got access to him through that. Anyway.
Well, it seems like the podcast is probably boosting your media business then. Pretty soon.
Yeah, it is. And I like interviewing people. I like to help people find their story. And I really like getting down to the essence of something, like, okay, so what really matters here? And I typically find that people there was some moment, something happened that kind of got them started on a path. If they've got some sort of a interesting thing going on in their life, like adventuring or writing. And I really like exploring those moments. What was the spark? What was the feeling? And I'm all into somatics. What was the sensations? What was the feeling? What was the motivation? Because I believe we're really motivated at the instinctive level, not in our minds. So when we get that charge, that sometimes you just come across a feeling, I got to do this. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but I got to do it. That's what I look for.
Yeah.
And then
sports, just with writing.
Huh?
I don't get that feeling with adventure sports, just with writing. A little safer, I don't know.
Well, a lot of friends, I know a lot of women that have combined the two. It's amazing. They've ridden around the world on their motorcycles and solo even. And then they write books about it, and they go out and they do more. And yeah. One woman I interviewed, again, out of Colorado, Darcy Gechter. Definitely a tomboy. I met her through a kayaking friend. I haven't actually met her in person, but we have a lot of kayaking mutual friends. She kayaked with two other people the entire length of the Amazon River. from source to sea. And that's amazing on a lot of levels. It's class 5+ water at the upper sections. Like you got to, I've run class 5+ and come out, I've survived, but that stuff is classic 5+++, 6-. It's like a whole other level. You've got to be so good to run that. And then they go through a section where there's these, jungle tribes that don't want people coming through that part. And there have been foreigners that have kayaked through there that have never come out. They disappeared. I mean, they were murdered. And so setting all that it took to set up the permits and meeting those people and getting the okays from the tribes and having the right people and all of that, it's another whole story unto itself. And then the boredom on the lower section where they're just going bat crazy, right? And then she wrote a book about it. And she said, I thought kayaking it was hard, but writing this book, oh my God. And then my publishers tell me I got to get emotional and talk about all this heartfelt stuff. And it's like, I don't do that. How do I do that? It's like she spent years on it. She finally got it out. I haven't read it, but I suspect it's a good book just on the adventure alone. But, writing is tough.
I do know, yeah.
Writing a book is really hard work.
I'll take writing a book over going down the Amazon any day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been so informative and really inspiring and really rad. We do have to wrap it up, but I just want to say thank you and open it up if anybody has any last